Okay, so I've been a part of the spiritual community for a while now, and not just on the internet, but in the energy, the essence, the communities in real life. I mean, from hippie to new age to biohacker to veganism to carnivore, everything. I even ended up in a spiritual cult back in 2018 and didn't realize it was a cult until I left. But I've also really been a part of, again, the energy and the remembrance of spirituality and the actual why behind all of this. I've seen it grow, I've watched people awaken, and I've also watched the message get twisted, the energy distorted, the sacred turned into a spectacle. And while I absolutely know that a lot of people identify me as a part of the spiritual community because I helped create this space essentially, I've been doing this for a while, I also personally don't feel like I'm a part of it and also feel kind of like a secondhand embarrassment from it. And then another part of me even feels responsible for a part of it, but not the distortion part. So this isn't judgment, okay? This is not any hate on anyone. This video is about discernment. It's not bitterness, it's boundaries. I'm speaking and sharing this from a space of years having experienced the spiritual community, again, very firsthand, really in the beginning before it became such a trend and so distorted. And I've also, again, seen this whole thing go down, go up. It's gotta go up. We gotta bring it back up. So let's talk about it. Why the spiritual community is officially cringe. And if you are new to this channel, I'm Heather of Activation Vibration. Definitely subscribe to the channel and check out the other videos. And for those of you returning, what's up? Love you, fam. And really curious of your opinion on this topic, so let us know in the comments below. All right, first reason is too much performance, not enough embodiment. It honestly feels like it's become kind of like a show where people are performing spirituality for likes and approval, but not even necessarily living it when the camera's off. I have actually seen this very firsthand with people, spiritual influencers in the community, biohackers in the community, who actually do not live what they preach. And let me tell you, it is a shock to experience that, where it's like they literally are doing one thing and saying and sharing that they're doing another thing. Where I've literally witnessed a health influencer say that he woke up and did Kundalini yoga, breath work, went on a run, did all of these things, said that on a live stream, and I literally watched him wake up, go to the bathroom, and then get on live. Like, that was it. And yes, I called him out, and no, it did not turn out well. Not publicly, but to him personally, he did not like it. That's why I feel like it's so important to not judge yourself based on what you see other people doing. Take the advice, take the information if it is helpful, but don't compare yourself because you have no idea what that person is actually doing behind the scenes. With this, I feel like social media has actually become more of like a vision board. It's more of like an idea that people want to embody more so than their actual life. And also words like goddess and quantum and alignment get thrown around when there's no actual energy rooted behind it. Where you can actually feel if someone has the embodiment of the energy or if it is just fake and kind of just a temporary energy and it's not actually practice behind the scenes. You can feel when someone is just posing. You can feel when someone is actually the embodiment of it, but the thing is on the internet, you can't really tell. People can throw up a really cool sales page, pay someone to do marketing, etc., and look more legit than the ones who are actually legit. I also feel like spiritual titles are being handed out just like candy. It's just like, okay, here, yes, yeah, now I'm a guru. I'm a guru. I'm a shaman. I am a priestess. I'm a channel. And yes, sure, we all do have access to this energy and have the ability to access these codes and these gifts, but spiritual power without responsibility, it's dangerous. People used to have to be initiated into this energy. I'm talking about years of practice, traveling to certain lands, accessing, learning from certain actual ancients, and even be descendants of lineages in order to access and understand, be initiated into certain information. Nowadays, it's accessible everywhere. You can just buy a course and now you're a certified shaman. And again, I'm not making fun of this at all, and this is no hate, but on a personal perspective and having traveled to so many lands, lived in different lands, experienced with different shamans, learned from teachers firsthand, it is vital to actually receive from the source. And now I'm a little bit extreme and strict with this, where I personally will not even do ayahuasca or certain medicines in America because they do not come from this land. I will not just be served with some random white shaman. I'm sorry, I want to go to the land. I want to learn from shamans who have been learning from their lineage, who are descendants of certain lineages. The information has been passed down. They work with the plant regularly. And even doing medicine in environments that are not in the matrix grid, but are actually in sacred lands. And now I do love that the medicine is becoming more readily available to other people, and especially Americans who need it very much so, and to break out of the grid. However, I have just seen the lack of integrity and the distortion within those fields to the point where I just won't mess with it. I would prefer to go to Brazil or Peru or Guatemala or India and learn from these lineages, from the land, from the plants firsthand. So that's what I would suggest first and foremost. But there's also distortion within other communities as well, so I'm gonna get into that too. But yeah, back in the day, you couldn't just decide that you're a priestess on a Tuesday. You had to train, you had to practice, travel, be chosen. There were rites, seasons, sacred responsibilities, and now, again, you can buy a certificate online and then you call yourself a shaman or a priestess. And some people don't even do that part, they just change their Instagram bio. But without the depth, without the initiation, without the lived experience, it's not initiation, it's imitation. And the energy doesn't lie. It doesn't lie. Someone can be dressed the part, but the frequency is just off. Maybe the outfits are on point, the Instagram feed is flawless, but when you actually sit with them, something just feels missing. But real spirituality, it isn't an aesthetic. It doesn't matter how it looks. It is an energy, a way of being, a devotion. Again, something that has been tried and true, practiced and experienced behind the scenes, which kind of even connects to the culture as a costume concept, where cultural appropriation is when a sacred tradition or something from a culture is borrowed with no understanding, no training, no respect, and it's just offensive. And again, it's actually dangerous. When you take a sacred tradition out of context, you actually risk harming yourself and others, and it is actually really serious. But spirituality, again, is not just some like free-for-all buffet. You have to be initiated and trained in practices, at least to have lived them through your life experiences and initiated yourself into them through time, energy, experience. But yeah, if someone didn't learn from the source, then they should not be serving it to others. Because with all the medicine work, like ayahuasca, breath work, mushrooms, all of it, these are sacred technologies. But when untrained facilitators serve them from ego, or worse, they use it to manipulate or seduce or harm, it's trauma disguised as healing. Sacred work really requires sacred training. And just because it's trending doesn't mean that everyone is supposed to do it. There's even been some distortion in the source of the space, where because spirituality has become such a trend and been so distorted in that trend, even the source has gotten distorted. There's so many stories I've now heard of sacred shamans that live in other spaces, are with the medicine, of lineage of the land, the medicine. Even some of those real shamans have been using it to manipulate, seduce, and harm. And this is honestly tragic because I feel like it's an example of when something gets distorted, it ends up distorting the root, the source of it too. Which is why, again, it's so important that each of us, everyone needs to individually become discerning. Connect to their own source, your own source, and be able to understand, intuitively feel into what is resonant and what is not, what is posing or what is just appearing to be some way. And I think one of the reasons why this is so tragic is because plant medicine is so healing. It can be so profound and so helpful, and I have also met so many amazing shamans. Luckily, I've never come in contact with a distorted shaman, but I know they exist. And plant medicine, when done in a good environment, with good teachers, with good shamans, it can be the activation of your soul, the healing that you needed, that you couldn't have had otherwise in other ways. And yes, you can do the healing in other ways, but there's a certain experience with psychedelic medicine. So really praying for the medicine spaces, may integrity return, and so it is. And I feel like a lot of the inability that the community people have to trust their own intuition comes from a lack of understanding that even lower vibration energies and experiences are also spiritual, where there's this pressure to always be positive all the time, to be high vibe when really your inner child is wanting to scream. But that is not healing, that is bypassing. Being spiritual doesn't mean being cheerful all the time 24/7. It means being real. Sitting with your shadow, letting the rage roar when it wants to. So choosing love doesn't mean skipping grief. It doesn't mean, again, that you have to be healed by someone else. It's about loving yourself through it. There's this idea that if you just think positive or avoid conflict, you're enlightened. But no, that's avoidance. That is bypassing. True spiritual power is in being able to call people out, in speaking your truth, in honoring your truth, even if it may temporarily look like it's not a high vibe. That's true spiritual power and spiritual mastery. It's when you face the discomfort, when you own your shadow. You take accountability and you still choose love. And not because it's easy, but because it's aligned. And all of this isn't just in spiritual, new age communities. I noticed this also in the breathwork, the biohacking community, where words like nervous system, somatic healing, trauma informed, they're everywhere now, but people haven't done the actual training. And it's not that you can't learn, it's that you need to live before you teach it. We don't need more spiritual vocabulary. We need more spiritual integrity. I also find monetization is drowning out a lot of the message. And yes, we deserve to be paid for our gifts. Abundance is beautiful. It is everyone's birthright. But when money becomes the main motivator, the message gets blurry. People start saying what sells and not what's real. They post what performs and not what heals. And with that, the core of why we're doing this gets lost in the algorithm. It completely loses its potency and it becomes, again, just this like distorted energy that ends up distorting everything else. It's contagious distortion. We gotta cut it, clear it. So it is. So yeah, there are parts of the spiritual space right now that are cringe. And yet, there are also still real ones out there. Still remembering, still doing the work, still devoted to truth, no matter what. No matter how it looks, and know that there are distortions in every single community, every space, business, churches, schools, everything. So it's not like you can run from the distortion. You just have to have discernment. We don't need to throw the whole thing away. We just need to come back to the roots, the reason, the remembrance, the real. So if this stirred something within you, it's because the wise one within you remembers too. And if you're still here, you're probably one of the ones who is here to restore what was lost. So let's bring it back to the real, just full on frequency. And so it is.